Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Cubs. I'm Ryan Davis. I'll be joined in a moment by Sean Sears. We're talking Cubs finalizing spring training, winding things down. They played their second to last game last night. They'll have one more game tonight, and the roster's pretty much set, minus maybe one spot. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about Pedro Strop. Sean, how are you doing tonight, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. We had a good Cubs game to watch. Actually, they've done this the last couple of years now. The Cubs have finished up the season or preseason facing off the Red Sox for 2 games. I think it's always fun to see that. Yeah, I mean, beyond that, typical Monday, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was a good game. They won 3-2. Cole Hamels pitched well. He even hit a home run to center field, which was cool. David Bote hit a home run, and the Cubs beat the Red Sox. But most importantly, Pedro Strop finally got back out there on the mound. He pitched well. He struck out 2 batters in 1 inning against the Red Sox. And again, this was kind of a tune-up for the big leagues for the actual games. So these were against guys who are going to be like actually on the Red Sox roster that he was pitching against. So very encouraging to see Strop out there pitching well. And then afterwards, he said he didn't even really feel it in his hamstring, so he's good to go.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's probably the best news you could take from this game. Obviously, your spring training game, it's not like you're holding a ton of stock in it, but Strop going out there pitching well. It sounds like he had 2 strikeouts. Yeah, that's music to my ears. It's great to hear that Pedro Strop went out there, had a great inning, and hopefully should be ready to go for the start of the season.
Yeah, and it's important because he's essentially your closer, right? Like that's the guy that you're relying on to be closing out games in the 9th inning for you, because Brandon Morrow is not out there. Steve Cishek had a rough spring. Brad Brock doesn't have the velocity there. You don't know what you're ever gonna get from Carl Edwards Jr. So this is your reliable guy. This is the guy that you want to go out there and be able to plug into the 9th inning and know that if you get a 1 or 2 run lead to the 9th, most of the time that's going to be safe.
Right. I mean, it's Pedro Strop's the only guy I trust at this point. I mean, you look at the rest of this this bullpen. I think I get it right one of these times.
Someday.
Yeah, right. One day I'll get it right. But the bullpen itself is, for the most part, starting to shake out. We've heard talk at camp at this point. They're trying to decide who that final roster spot's going to go to in that bullpen. But I mean, for the most part, the bullpen settled, and none of those guys I feel super comfortable coming into a game with the lead outside of maybe Pedro Strop at this point. So it's incredible news that he's back. He's healthy. He was able to have an effective outing, and maybe just kind of rides that momentum into hopefully a successful 2019.
So you're not a huge Brandon Kinsler guy?
Salt the earth, guys. Nah, not my cup of tea.
Well, you mentioned that final roster spot. So it sounds like Mike Montgomery's safe in the bullpen. He's your lefty. Then you've got Dunsing's DFA'd. So I wanted to mention that. So Dunsing's not there. You've got Montgomery, you've got Chatwood, you've got Kinsler, you've got Cishek, Edwards, Brock, and you've got Strop now. So that one final spot, Joe Madden said that he wants to take a lefty. I think everyone's pretty much narrowed that down to either Randy Rosario, who Cubs fans saw last year, or you've got Kyle Ryan, a guy who's been in the organization, has pitched really well this spring. He's on the 40-man roster, so kind of on even footing with Rosario. I think the assumption at this point among a lot of people is that Rosario will probably get the spot just because he was kind of a favorite of Madden's last year. But what's your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, I feel like Rosario is probably the guy that's got a little bit of an edge, even though I kind of like Kyle Ryan better. You and I talked about this before. Rosario really just last year, he had a successful season, but a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. He really didn't do anything that impressed outside of maybe his strong ERA that he had for the majority of the season. But it's not like Rosario ever came into a moment and you were like, wow, that was great execute pitch, or wow, this really worked out, this excellent double play. It just kind of seemed like, oh, thank God Javier Baez is so good, or like, thank God Anthony Rizzo can blitz this bunt. You know what I mean? It was more of those situations than Rosario ever standing out. So I'm not sold on that. And what I've been able to see out of Kyle Ryan, which is pretty little, because I haven't been able to see too many games, obviously on TV. But what I've seen and what I've heard about him, he seems like he's got stuff that misses bats, and from the left-handed side, that's something that I'm interested in. So I would say Ryan is my pick, but we'll probably see Randy Rosario to start the season if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's where I go with it too. I would guess Randy Rosario, but Kyle Ryan is the guy that I hope they go with. Rosario is a couple years younger than him, but Ryan has a little bit of big league experience. He's thrown 12 and 2/3 innings this spring as of right now. He pitched the ninth inning against the Red Sox, struck out a batter, didn't give up any hits or walks. He has given up a lot of hits this spring, though, 15 hits and 12 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 8 batters. He's walked 3. I think he has an ERA under 3, which is good for the small sample spring numbers. But again, numbers don't matter as much. Rosario, on the other hand, I think he's pitched about 10 innings, given up about 12 hits. He has an ERA over 6. So again, we're not putting a lot of stock into just spring numbers, but if you want to look at it that way, Ryan has had maybe the better spring. So it's a debate. It's a serious debate who gets the final spot. But yeah, I think we're both on the same page. Kyle Ryan's the guy that I would prefer, but I think it'll probably end up being Randy Rosario.
Yeah, it just seems like he's, like you said, Madden's guy, a guy they know a little bit more. He has a relationship with all those guys in the clubhouse. It's probably an easier sell at this point, and it's not like either one of them have completely outperformed the other, or at least enough to really be like, oh wow, obviously this guy's better. But yeah, Ryan just seems like the guy that would. I'm just more confident in him is really what it comes down to, and that says a lot because I've only seen him pitch like once. I've just seen a lot of Randy Rosario, and I know what we're going to get with that guy, and it's not anything special.
Yeah, no, I guess that is a little bit more of it. I like Kyle Ryan from what I've seen from him, but yeah, it's a lot of we've seen Randy Rosario, so we know where the bar is set. I'd rather go with kind of the unknown than go with what I know. And if you just look at his numbers last year, he was 24 years old. He came up. It was his second stint in the big leagues. His first really stint that it was a decent amount of time. He got into 44 games through 46 and 2/3 innings, had a 3.66 ERA. Those numbers look great. But then when you see that he walked 22 and struck out 30, he walked over 4 batters per 9 and struck out less than 6. He allowed over 9 hits per 9 innings and had a whip of 1.479. That's really bad. His FIP was way above his ERA, over a run over his ERA. So the peripheral stats were not kind to Randy Rosario. So like you said, a little bit smoke and mirrors. Wasn't all that great, but just kind of found ways to get outs, kind of fly balls to the wall or line drives to an outfielder. So yeah, I would prefer just to see a different guy at this point, I think.
Right.
But maybe Randy Rosario pitches really well for the Cubs this season. That's also very possible.
Yeah, I'm just happy that Brian Dunson doesn't look like he's going to be an option to start the season, just because we've seen enough of Dunson to know what he is at this point. So I'll count it as a win, but the Cubs don't allow me to win too much in a row, so I'll probably have to deal with Randy Rosario in the bullpen because of it.
Yeah. Well, and the last guy that we should probably mention, Mark Zagunis, looks like he's getting the roster spot. And David Bote, I saw that he was asked about making the open day roster, and he kind of sheepishly mentioned that he hadn't been told he was being that he was going to make the opening day roster. And I think the idea is he might never actually be told officially. He might just be getting on the plane and assuming that he has a spot, because who else would it be?
Yeah, guy's had a great spring. Yeah, I think he's probably earned a spot. He's been a little too modest. He's had a great spring. Obviously, huge season with the Cubs last year. So, but Marcus Agunas, a guy that I know you and I have kind of talked a little bit about. He has a good approach at the plate. I'm excited to see what he might bring. Is maybe a guy that can stick around in the big league roster.
Yeah, at least for a little while. I mean, he can hit lefties.
Right.
He's not the best defensive outfielder. He doesn't have a ton of power, or at least hasn't hit for a ton of power in recent years. He showed a little bit more pop this spring, so maybe he shows off a little power this year. But that all remains to be seen. We're all talking about opening day optimism right now for a lot of these players. So we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the Cubs going into this season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of key pieces, and it'd just be interesting to see some of these newer guys. We've heard a lot, maybe seen 16 at bats in spring training over the course of like 3 years. So it'll be cool to see these guys get more playing time, especially some of those Iowa guys who spent some time there, like Mark Zagunis. He's been in the minor leagues for what feels like forever now. He kind of feels like that 5th-year senior that's been around just a little bit too long. But it's nice to see him get a chance. He obviously earned it, just like David Bote last year, getting up and being able to, not necessarily. I mean, he was a rookie last year and he hadn't been in the system for too long, but it's nice to see a guy that had kind of been talked about a bit get a chance and really run with it.
Yeah. Well, you guys who are watching, send us along your thoughts. Go down to the comments below. Tell us what you think about Mark Zagunis. Who are you a fan of, Randy Rosario or Kyle Ryan? I'm sure there's a decent chance by the time you're watching this video, we may already know the answer. So pass along your thoughts anyway. Yeah, we are. Give us a thumbs up. Give us click on the subscribe button. We will talk to you again next time.